right. Um, Hello, good afternoon,
Halo,
everyone.
selamat sore semuanya.
Colleagues from Indonesia and the other parts of the world, welcome to JakPost Fintech
Selamat
Fest.
datang di
So,
JakPost Fintech.
today's webinar is part of our
Webinar
three-day
hari
webinar
ini
series from
bagian dari
JakPost
webinar
JakPost
hari kita
that
dari
aims
JakPost
to
Upclose
shed light on fintech's future by
dan
providing you with
memberikan
insights
pengetahuan
from
tentang masa
various
depan fintech.
stakeholders in the industry. So,
Jadi
our
berbagai
topic for
stakeholder di
today
industri.
is fintech's role in Indonesia's economic future.
Jadi
First of
topik
all,
hari ini
thank you
adalah
for
peran
joining us
fintech
today. My
di
name is
masa depan Indonesia.
Apriza
Terima
Pinandita,
kasih
and I'm
sudah
a
mengikuti kita.
journalist at
Nama
the
saya
Jakarta
Apriza
Post,
Pinandita,
and I will
jurnalis
be
Jakarta
your
Post,
MC for today.
dan saya akan menjadi
So,
MC hari ini.
before we start, I would like to explain some rules for the webinar. We will have 5 distinguished speakers. We will start the sessions with a keynote speech from Bapak Sukarela Batunanggar of the Financial Services Authority, or OJK. And then we will listen to some presentations from other panelists. We will have Pak Adrian Gunadi from AFPI, or the Indonesian Fintech Peer-to-Peer Lending Association, and the CEO of Investree. And then we'll have also Pak Darmadi Sutanto from Bank BTPN, Ibu Natasha Ardiani from OVO, and Bapak Ravi Kanth Ivaturi from PwC Indonesia. So each speaker will be given about 15 minutes each to deliver their session. And afterwards, we will move to the Q&A session for about 25 minutes. So due to the limited time that we have, we would not be able to answer all of your questions during the Q&A session. So feel free to ask any question you may have throughout the webinar by using the Q&A box so that the panelists will also be able to answer the questions directly. And also, please do not hesitate to ask questions in Bahasa Indonesia. And I would like to remind you that today's webinar will be conducted in English, but you can access the simultaneous interpretation provided by our team. We will have our colleagues Hikmat Gunawan and Dio Suhenda as our interpreters for today. You can hear it by clicking the Japanese channel on your Zoom interface. Saya ulangi, untuk teman-teman yang ingin mendengarkan webinar ini dalam bahasa Indonesia, silahkan memilih channel Japanese di kanal interpretation, sehingga Anda bisa mendengarkan webinar ini dalam bahasa Indonesia. So I think that's all. Once again, thank you for participating in our webinar. And also, you can always support good journalism by subscribing today on the Jakarta Post website. I will share the link in the chat box as well. I hope you'll enjoy this webinar. And without further ado, I will hand over to our moderator for today. She is a journalist at the Jakarta Post. Please welcome Eisya Eloksari. Eisya, the platform is yours.
Okay, thank you so much, Apriza. Good afternoon. Welcome and thank you everyone for joining this webinar. I hope everyone is healthy and doing well wherever you are. I'm Aisha, journalist at the Jakarta Post, and I will be your moderator. I believe the topic of our discussion today is more relevant now than ever, as most of us has turned to digital financial services during this pandemic. We use it to pay for our bills, buy food and groceries, and even banking. Financial technology, or fintech, has become one of the leading sectors in the nation's digital economy landscape. Data from the central bank showed that digital payment grew 65% during the pandemic, indicating a trend that people now prefer cashless payment. Meanwhile, a study suggests that digital payment value in the Southeast Asia region can reach up to 1.1 trillion US dollar by 2025. With the potential that we have, the future of fintech in Indonesia is not only interesting, but also important to talk about. Therefore, our discussion this afternoon will focus on several things, namely how the pandemic has transformed the fintech industry, how fintech can further collaborate and contribute to public services, lessons from countries around the world on fintech transformation, what the future will look like for the industry, and also valuable insights from industry players. To begin our discussion, I would like to welcome Bapak Sukarela Batunanggar. He is the Financial Authority Deputy Commissioner of OJK Institute and Digital Finance to deliver the keynote speech. We are very eager to learn from you. So without further ado, Bapak Sukarela, the platform is yours.
Good afternoon. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera kita semua. First of all, I would like to thank Jakarta Post for inviting OJK to this important and also timely webinar. Let me just share my screen. All right. Do my screen looks good? Aisya? Is it okay?
Yes, Pak. Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I'll focus my talk today on Indonesia digital finance, regulatory framework, and roadmap. Just a short introduction. I spent most of my time as a regulator and supervisor, previously in Central Bank, Bank of Indonesia, and previously in OJK. And then I moved to the macroprudential framework, and also at the last 3 years, I spent my time leading OJK Institute. We are doing research and capacity building for industry, and also digital finance innovation group within the OJK, where we are responsible doing research and also developing policy and regulation for fostering the fintech development in Indonesia. And just recently, I also interested in some development of holistic leadership and also in sustainability. So for those of you who are interested in this area, so you may just add me or link me in the LinkedIn. Just skip this outline to save time. So first of all, I'd like just to share with you the fintech tree. This is not invest tree, yeah, just fintech tree, because I see Pa Adrian there, my colleague. So a fintech tree is kind of analogy for a taxonomy of the fintech environment. So as you see, the leaf is key activities of fintech, where we have brands like deposit and lending, capital raising, asset management, payment clearing, settlement, insurance, crypto asset, and I think many other brands will flourish in the near future. While at the stem or the rod, the batang tubuh, we have enabling technology. Of course, you're aware we have API, cloud computing, biometric, DLT, EIM, ML, and so on and so on. And I think it's very important at the root where I will focus my talk, what we call it policy enablers, where we have digital ID, the open banking, data protection, cyber security, and of course the innovation facilities, where we in OJK we have OJK Fintech Center. We call it Infinity Innovation Center for Digital Technology, where we have our regulatory sandbox, and also we do facilitation. We have knowledge sharing, learning, and so on to support the fintech development. So just very briefly, I'm sure Pa Adrian will share more detail about this. At least we are very, very fortunate or bersyukur in Indonesia. Yeah, we are very happy to oversee the growth of fintech very, very significantly. If I can say, very exponentially, both in terms of activities, in terms of business model that emerge, and also in terms of volumes, especially for peer-to-peer lending, the dominant players in our fintech industry, and the second largest, which is the payment. As you see in the chart, we have other type of fintech like market provisioning, aggregator, yeah, equity funding, wealth management, insurtech, enablers, and the last one, we call it digital financial innovation. We call it inovasi keuangan digital. This is a kind of fintech that not yet regulated, but expect some of them will be regulated soon, because we see their impact to the industry, and also in terms of number of business model that already arise. Because we have now 99 inovasi keuangan digital or digital finance innovation. Yeah, I'll talk later. But I think one of key regulatory concern in this sense is that the challenge for regulator, which is how to set the regulatory perimeter, the regulatory scope, because it's kind of blurred, you know, between a fintech payment, for instance, and e-commerce, and then the peer-to-peer lending, because we observe that some of type of fintech, they are already kind of develop their own ecosystem, sort of offer many types of product and services, which is cross sector or industry. So as you see in that slide, at least now we have 99 digital finance innovation, or we call it inovasi keuangan digital, that we are cluster or we group into 18 cluster, ranging from aggregators, that's the largest number, and then followed by financial planner to a RegTech, SupTech, EKYC, and almost everything that emerged in the world. I think now we have in Indonesia, in terms of they already initiate or develop their business model. I think this is also another good progress, yeah. But of course, we expect that the model or the innovation, robust viability of the model, the governance, and also how they are sort of more contributive to our financial inclusion, for instance. Now, OJK, how OJK responds to this progress or development? Of course, I think since in the beginning, since in the onset, OJK is very proactive and also taking a leadership role in terms of how we lead and also facilitate the development of fintech in Indonesia. I think Indonesia is one country among others that in the very beginning regulate, set the right policy and set the right regulation for fintech, especially for peer-to-peer lending, compared to other countries like China and other, while they are just let the fintech grows, and then there is a problems, and then they are, more regulate, stricter, and then and so on. So I think that's also another kind of good setting. So OJK set sort of holistic and a balanced framework on how to develop the not only fintech but also our financial industry as a whole. So we have 3 key objectives. Of course, we would like to create a stable financial system, right? Stable, sound, health, resilient. This is very important. I think that's an old mandate of the all regulator. But of course, we would like also to drive the financial industry to sort of more contributive, so sort of more contributive to our economic growth, providing not only financing but also other kind of services. And of course, we are also concerned about inclusiveness. Because why? I think one of the key issues in our financial sector that we are still in a very quite low financial inclusion in terms of the adult access to the financial sector is I think around 50% World Bank number, or 60 more percent OJK index. So this is the 3 objectives. So in order to achieve this, there's 3 objectives. We adopt first more balanced regulation. So what do we mean by more balanced regulation is while maintaining financial stability, ensuring customer protection, and also fostering economic growth, now OJK also responsible to drive the financial innovation. This is a very important. I think OJK is one of the leading regulators in the world. They're very taking proactive role to drive take the innovation as a new mandate. That's why in OJK we are also established a dedicated group to oversee the fintech regulation and supervision, licensing, and also for the fintech policy and research. The second one, of course, the very, very important is how to create more responsible finance. What we mean by responsible finance is that the financial industry not only responsible just taking deposit from customer and then providing loans to the debtors. I think that's the very traditional role of a banking or financial industry. But more importantly is how they also transform themselves, change their strategy, their business operation, their value proposition to also empower the society and also drive the innovation and more sort of responsible for their own business by what we call it developing market conduct. They develop their own conduct, self-governance, effective risk management, and also customer protection. This is very, very important. I think this is a new kind of a business or a value proposition, not only in terms of short-term oriented, but also long-term orientation to achieve sustainability. And the third part, which is very, very important, not only for the financial industry, but also regulators and also I think fintech, is how we can empower our society, in terms of educating them, providing them better access to finance, enhance their literacy, but more importantly, to develop their capacity in terms of not only financial capacity, but capacity to manage their business. That's very important, which is an integral part of our strategy, and hopefully also for the fintech industry and also banking institution, in order sort of a better or sound or integrated ecosystem or more sustainable and responsible finance going forward. So as you see in the chart, we just draw the most of the balanced strategy. On the left-hand side, we have our current strategy, risk-based supervision, financial stability, customer protection, which is our old mandate. While on the right-hand side, we have the green-yellow color. We call it a new strategy, as I told you, agile regulation supervision. What we call it agile regulation, it is that OJK not just developing more rule-based or compliance regulation, but most of the focus on the principle-based regulation, while fostering the association and industry to develop standard and operating procedures, guidelines, code of conduct, business conduct, and so on. Because why? Because I think we are very aware that the business development is very, very rapid, very agile, and also the industry sort of more taking more room and more responsibility to develop their own strategy, their own sort of business conduct. And of course, innovation and market conduct, as I mentioned to you. And for your information, especially outside of Indonesia, for our participant, I think Indonesia or OJK is also among authorities with taking sort of forward-looking step that empowering our fintech association, not only as a regular association, but we assign them, we gave them mandate to develop the business or standard and operating guideline for each type of business, and also to oversee, to discipline their member. I think that's important. And currently we have AFTEC, Association Fintech Indonesia, and we have AFPI. Here we have Adrian Gunadi as chairman of Association AFPI, Asosiasi Fintech Pendanaan Indonesia, peer-to-peer lending fintech association, right? And we have the latest one. We have just also empower AFPI, Asosiasi Fintech Syariah Indonesia, right? So there are at least 5 challenges. We see 5 challenges from regulatory perspective that we have to tackle in our initiative, not only from OJK perspective, but also together with our key stakeholders. First of all, customer protection. This is very important to ensure the integrity, the trust, the customer trust, the society trust for our financial sector and also for this fintech industry since in the beginning, because we have to build a very right foundation at the onset. Data protection and security, as we have a digital transformation, digital operation is very, very important to ensure risk management, anti-money laundering, terrorist financing effort, and finally, as I mentioned, people empowerment or social impact is very, very important. I think this is the kind of not only a new perspective, but I think this is a natural perspective on how to manage business in sustainable way. Because if you just focus on a short term, just focus on a financial aspect, on the technology aspect, without touching the people aspect, I think your business is not sustainable. I think lesson learned from Asian crisis, 97, 98, yeah, global financial crisis, this pandemic. If you don't have a loyal customer, you don't have, if you don't build your customer base, I think your business model is not. So last year, we are also already finalized our digital financial innovation roadmap that we built on 8 areas. At the bottom, as you see, collaboration, talent, and infrastructure is very, very important. That's why we have a very active engagement, not only with the industry, with the association, also with the key stakeholders, yeah, other regulators, government, and also international organization in order to develop the good ecosystem. And of course, talent and infrastructure. This is also one of our priority to develop talent, because I think currently and moving forward, I think we have more and more a talent gap, moving forward. Not only in the fintech industry, but also in the financial industry. There will be a kind of a talent war going forward. That's why very, very important. And I think important this webinar is also part of our effort to share or to give awareness and also learning experience. So at the middle, as you see, we have at least 6 focus area, starting from customer, how we can enhance the customer education, literacy, yeah, awareness, and then moving readiness. And then at the end, we would like to enhance the customer experience. That's very, very important. How they can, experience the new way of finance, new way of to transact or to do business. It's very important. Data, of course, is very important. Not only to have a better decision, but also to ensure integrity, governance, regulation, financing, and also digital ecosystem. This we are leading, or with this effort, of course, we are directing to the 3 objectives that I mentioned previously: stable, contributive, inclusive, and also sustainable financial sector. So last month, with support of Asian Development Bank, we just also launched our digital finance innovation roadmap. I think you can check on the OJK website. Yeah, there's also there is a complete document there, and also in my link account. Yeah, you can check there. So, what is the DFI roadmap and action plan 2020-2024? At least we are focused our effort or initiative on 5 key areas. Of course, policy and regulation as a center is very important on how we can enhance our capability to do more research on to more understanding the development of the business model that emerged in the industry, and also important to understand, and then before we are developing policy, and also develop the right regulation for each time of business. Second, of course, as I mentioned, talent development is very important. So we are also collaborate with other key stakeholders to develop this talent. I think recently this year we also have a collaboration with some universities developing the fintech program for master program for fintech, and I think we are moving forward to sort of collaborating with our Ministry of Education, on how we can support the Campus Merdeka by providing our assistance, providing the students, to do assignment and also research in OJK or in the finance industry, for instance. And also we would like to also to enhance the role of OJK Fintech Center, the Infinity, as an accelerator, to drive the innovation, and also to oversee, to test, all the business proposal that recorded within the OJK to ensure this business model is visible, provide a good benefit to the customer, at least to enhance the financial inclusion, financial literacy, and also providing added value to the customer, more convenient, cheaper, and faster product and services, and so forth. So of course, as a regulator, we are also very keen to develop our own capability on how we can supervise and regulate the financial industry better by developing RegTech and also SupTech. RegTech is for industry, on how they can, manage the regulatory activities in a more sort of efficient and effective way, EQYC and others. And also we've developed now our supervisory technology framework and tools in order to arrive at better, risk assessment, better risk assessment, and also more preemptive, more proactive supervisory action in order, to maintain the integrity, the resiliency of our financial sector, including fintech, including like, using blockchain technology, e-reporting, and of course, we are also working with some of our collaborators from international donors and also organizations in developing this RegTech and SupTech framework. So at least we have 5 key activities at OJK Fintech Center, Infinity, Innovation Center of Digital Financial Technology. Our office in Wisma Mulia 2, in Gatot Subroto Street at 17th floor. Of course, currently we just closed because of this pandemic, but we are very open. We are at least do policy and regulatory framework works. We also do our regulatory sandbox as our live laboratory to test all of the business model to ensure the responsible finance, the viable business model, good governance, and also customer protection. And also we do capacity building by collaborating with our partners like association, other experts, and also other regulators. And of course, we are also open as a co-working space and consultation. And we have our GESIT website. You can check in OJK website, GESIT. If you would like to have a consultation with our team, you just register yourself, your name, your address, and your company, and then the system will reply soon, and then we will schedule our consultation for you. And of course, collaboration also is very important. I think we have to enhance our collaborative effort with all our key stakeholders. This is my last slide. So at least I see the role of fintech is very crucial in the future of our economy, not only Indonesian economy. I think it is also confirmed by many researchers and analysts. At least I divide it into 4 kind of points. First of all, fintech already prove that their business model are more agile, not only adaptive, and also sensitive to the current issues or problem that faced by our society, but they are also fast, can offer more easy way of doing financial transaction, and also cheaper and also low-cost transaction. I think that's very good also to drive the competition, the healthy competition within the financial industry. So we expect this kind of create not only the competition, but also some change of the industry landscape going forward. The second, of course, fintech already proved their business model is very revolutionary. I think at least 10 or 15 years back, we don't know, we don't aware of this peer-to-peer lending transaction. We just know, on our money and banking textbook 101 or finance 101, we just know that the bank is the financial intermediary, you see. But now they're doing just this intermediation. So I think with the changing business model, with more sort of emerging, more and more innovative business model, I think this is good for economy, good for society, and also good, healthier for industry, and also drive the change or the digital transformation within the financial industry. The third, of course, in addition to the right competition, the healthier competition, we also already see some sort of potential for collaboration between fintech, big tech, and within the incumbent, the financial industry, bank, non-bank, and also capital market. I think this is also a good sort of potential that OJK currently work on to do some research and also to do facilitation on how we can link between bank, fintech, and also the cooperative and also the customer. So to link and match. Then finally, I think fintech will also help on how government do better. I think in terms of not only e-governance, e-government, but also smart city and many things, and even for our political system to do election, for instance. I think the financial technology or any technology can do something. I think that's all my remark for this afternoon. Hopefully you enjoy your discussion with all of our panelists, distinguished panelists. Of course, I just would like to also to greet our colleagues from BTPN, Pak Darmadi, and also Mbak Natasha, yeah, from OVO, and of course our chairman of AFPI chairman, Pak Adrian Gunadi. And again, thank you, Jakarta Post. Hopefully we can also within this event we can enhance our capacity, our readiness, and also the the initiative to drive more innovative ways to solve many current problems and also our future problem, sort of more better society, better nation, and also better ecosystem. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Great. Thank you so much, Bapak Sukarela, for your very insightful presentation. I do agree that the fintech industry is very important for the future. What I can gather from your keynote speech is that fintech has been very robust in Indonesia, and we already have the right regulatory framework since the very beginning with the involvement of OJK. And that, but there are also room for improvement, of course. We have to boost inclusivity and collaboration among fintech players. Fintech can also, because it's very agile, it's very important to have in the future so that the government even can join in with fintech and serve the public better. I hope that you can stay until the very end of the presentation, until the discussion and even the Q&A. But otherwise, you can leave the webinar if you have other meetings to attend to. Okay. Our next panelist, I want to call Bapak Adrian Gunadi. He is the chairman of the Indonesian Fintech Peer-to-Peer Lending Association, or AFPI. And he is also the CEO of investree. Bapak.
Hi, good afternoon, Eisya.
Hi, how are you, Pak?
I'm good, thanks.
Yeah, are you joining us from home or from your office?
No, from the office. We're one of the essential businesses. I think it's our role to keep on supporting the SMEs, especially during these challenging times. So we're taking turns within the office, half at home and half at the office, and it keeps on rolling.
Great, yeah. Well, I hope you're staying safe and following the health protocol there in the office. So yeah, Pak Adrian, during these unprecedented times, the fintech P2P lending sector is actually quite resilient, despite the non-performing loan has increased, and then but also the consumer are still lending money, especially for the productive loan, right? This is somewhat a good news amidst the economy that is contracting. So my question to you is, I mean, you do have a presentation, but I just wanted to start with how does the pandemic actually affect the P2P lending sector in Indonesia?
All right, so I think I have actually in the slide a little bit on the trend, right? So I think when overall, I would say that this is the first credit crunch that the industry has gone through. If you're familiar with financial services, obviously there will be cycles in terms of the market. Indonesia itself experienced 98 and then 2008. And so I think this is the first time the relatively young industry, fintech lending, has experienced a credit crunch. So obviously there is an impact, I would say, on one, in terms of the asset quality. Yes, we see a deterioration in terms of the asset quality compared to previous years. This asset quality, however, should also be divided into several sectors. There are obviously certain type of loans that are more impacted compared to other type of products. So I think this is also important to understand. Secondly, it's also important to understand how actually this is also an opportunity for fintech lending companies to strengthen their risk modeling, to strengthen their risk management policy, and also their collection strategy, because obviously this is a good test case, all right, for this overall process. So we actually see also how fintech lending companies have shifted some of their focus to sectors that are more resilient. And I think this is one of the advantage as a startup, that you are relatively agile to adapt to the condition and situation of the market. Thirdly, I think overall we still see the growth, the potential of the industry, as Sukarela had mentioned, in terms of the underserved market is still huge, both in terms of the credit to SME ratio, credit card penetration is still relatively low. So I think this is still a very promising sector in terms of the growth. In terms of the opportunity, I think that is still positive. So yes, there will be some correction amongst the industry. I think this is part of the financial services sector, and I think this is also important. The role of the association is how we can also provide the right measures of let's say relaxation in terms of the fintech lending players, for them to be able to weather this uncertainty or the pandemic. I think this is also what we are actively doing with OJK in terms of relaxation for the borrowers, let's say, in terms of restructuring, but also in terms of relaxation for the platforms themselves, in terms of capital requirements for socialization in terms of licensing and so far and so on. So very interesting times, but we're very positive, and I think we see that in this pandemic, actually, as you rightly mentioned, we are continuing to support Indonesian SMEs.
Great. It's very refreshing to hear that a lot of fintech and also other startups helping our SMEs, which, they contributed so much to our economy, right, Pak?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So my next question to you would be, how can fintech help boost the country's economy economic recovery after the pandemic?
Right. So actually what we see, and we ourselves are in the middle of that process itself, is how can fintech be part of a bigger ecosystem? I think that's key, right? So fintech on a standalone basis is different, has different multiplier effect versus fintech as part of an ecosystem. So the key is how can fintech be part of that bigger ecosystem? There are obviously the digital ecosystem such as the e-commerce, ride hailing, other B2B commerce as well, where fintech can actually play a role in providing access to finance to that, I would say, ecosystem. So it is very important that fintech players be part of a bigger ecosystem. So through that ecosystem, they can actually help speed up the recovery effort of the SMEs. And just to share with you, there's also been some very positive developments in the way that the government or even state-owned banks are collaborating with fintechs for the National Relief Fund. So just to share, investree, we actually received or has been allocated by Bank Mandiri, part of the National Relief Fund. So we are deploying that pemulihan ekonomi nasional for several of our SMEs. So that's one way that we see how fintech can play actually a very big role. And especially if you know for a fact that everything is going digital because of the pandemic, the government is moving towards a less contact economy. I think that is where fintech will become more relevant. So coming back to my first statement, it has to be part of a bigger ecosystem in order for us to be able to accelerate the relief effort for Indonesia.
Great, thank you so much, Adrian, for sharing those insights. I believe you have a presentation, or?
Yeah, maybe I can I can share. I think some of the items that I shared was actually already mentioned. So I gave a bit preview of what I'm sharing. Hang on, let me. Okay. Okay. Okay, so yeah, I think it's in line with the title, how we are supporting Indonesia's SME in these challenging times. Allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is Adrian. I'm chairman, Adrian Gunadi. I'm chairman of the Indonesian Fintech Lending Association, and also co-founder and CEO of investree. I think some of the slides have been shared by Pak Sukarela, so I'm not gonna elaborate a lot on the slides. I think one thing that I want to note is obviously, how we see the recent developments of fintech. I think most of what we see in this slide is actually already evident in Indonesia, which is a significant development towards the industry. So we see even for the lending side, not only the development of peer-to-peer, but also what we have seen is the development of alternative credit scoring and alternative lending platforms in Indonesia, such as peer-to-peer, as a means to access capital for individuals as well as small businesses. And obviously you have different type of services or financial services that are being offered by the fintech players, not only in the lending space, but payments, deposits, as well as wealth tech. So within the Indonesian fintech ecosystem, yes, peer-to-peer lending has obviously one of the highest in terms of number or proportion of companies, and also in terms of the licensed entities. So to date, within the industry, there's 33 companies. There are 33 companies that are fully licensed, and 123 are still in the registration stage. So you also see what we have here is in terms of the trend, our year-on-year growth of 134% as per June. The amount of total cumulative loans that have been facilitated. The number of outstanding itself stands at around 12 trillion. And if you look at the number of lenders, around 663,000, and the number of borrowers, 26 million borrowers that are being facilitated through the fintech lending platform. So obviously, as Pak Sukarela mentioned, in a relatively short period of time, the industry has grown significantly. I think this is also a testament to, as I mentioned earlier, the lack of access to finance still remains a problem in Indonesia. There's still a lot of underserved, underbanked, whether it's small businesses, micro businesses, as well as consumer. So that obviously has enabled fintech lending companies to grow. But at the same time, there is always, the challenge, and that is one of the reasons why AFPI was developed or formed about 2 years ago, 5th of October 2018, and AFPI was officially appointed as a organization or association by OJK to actually act as a self-regulating organization in 2019. So right now we have 156 registered members within AFPI, which consist of different type of business models. One is the productive loan, second is the multi-purpose or consumer loan, and also the Sharia. And I think we are all addressing the same problem and how to limit or resolve the credit gap in Indonesia, which stands at about $80 billion as per IMF report. So apart from that, obviously, we collaborate also with our partner association, AFTEC, developing a framework in terms of consumer protection with regards to the fintech in general. Apart from that, we also have our own set of code of conduct, which basically governs how fintech lending platforms in Indonesia should operate. This is again called the market conduct, as was mentioned earlier, and how we're helping the regulator in I would say designing the framework in terms of standard operating procedures for fintech lending companies. Again, this is due to the fact that how the companies develop and evolve so fast, and sometimes the regulation are not able to follow the trend or the growth. Another important factor that we have done is actually developing our own fintech data center. This is called the FDC, trying to aggregate and have a consolidated view on data on the overall credit portfolio of fintech lending companies. That is one of the initiatives that AFPI have actually launched. So since inception, obviously, we have played a significant contribution in shaping the fintech lending landscape in Indonesia. Number one, through policy advocacy as part of our role, POJK 77, which is actually in the process or discussions of a revised POJK 77 to, I would say, align and keep up with the trend and the development of the industry. Since POJK 77 was launched about 4.5 years ago, I think it's time to be further improved and enhanced. Also, we are also in discussion with, together with AFTEC, with the Parliament, with regards to the consumer or personal data protection regulation. I think that's very important and tantamount to the development or the future development of fintech industry overall, including fintech lending. We mentioned on the fintech data center, I think this is one of the first that we see in Southeast Asia, actually, that an association has its own data center, which actually is being used by our members to actually validate validate and also verify the condition of borrowers as well as potential applicants to their platform. So one of the idea is, because we are not able to access BI checking, so we developed our own, I would say, internal BI checking, which then we are able to avoid any over leverage. So one individual borrowing to, let's say, 12 platforms or 15 platforms, as we've seen in the past. And also we are able to see the condition of his credit within other platforms. Code of conduct, we actually have our own separate ethics committee who helps monitor and supervise how the code of conduct is being applied to all lending platforms. I think that's very important in terms of providing clear, I would say, sanctions, penalties, if the code of conduct is not adhered to by the platform. And obviously market education and public awareness, such as a webinar such as today, I think is very important to continue to educate the market. Again, as I mentioned, this is still a very young and infant industry. It's less than 5 years, I would say. So it is very important to continue to educate the public, the stakeholders with regards to fintech lending in general. And I think we've seen how through positive public education, we're able to educate the market between illegal lending platforms and the registered or licensed. I think that's very important. So I think COVID, as we all seen, have impacted, as I mentioned. Yes, we see the trend on a decreasing TKB 90 or delinquency above 90 days. So obviously you see some deterioration again due to COVID. And what we see is actually the impacted sectors. I think from the data that we see certain sectors that have been directly impacted based on the data. You obviously have sectors that because of the restrictions have not been able to cope. Tourism is one of them. I think that's one of the sectors. Retail. You also see potential winners where, as I mentioned, a lot of the shifts have been to that specific sector. E-commerce, ICT, personal and healthcare, food processing, medical supplies and services. So these are some of the sectors that we feel, and many of the fintech lending platforms have actually shifted, focusing on that certain segment. And I think one of the key aspects and key importance is that we've seen how the collaboration actually with banks have only strengthened since COVID. I think this is very important, that banks are also now realizing that in this contactless economy environment, then fintech can become a very effective extension of for the banks, right? And so you see a lot of banks developing partnerships with fintech. One of them is channeling, number 2, but also you see now banks in Indonesia are actually investing in fintech companies, not only fintech lending, but other fintech verticals as well. So I think this is a significant shift, and I think this is one of the key reasons why this industry has grown significantly in Indonesia. And if you compare to the other Southeast Asian markets, I think this is quite a positive trend for Indonesia. So this is actually where we see the development of future in fintech. You will see a lot of collaboration. You will see a lot of ecosystem play. This is an example that I'm highlighting, how we at investree are actually partnering with several ecosystem within the e-commerce, procurement. We see a huge demand in government procurement, and how SMEs are now part of that government procurement. I think this is also one of the initiatives to drive SMEs to onboard to more digital platforms or digital procurement. And in that way, the fintech can actually tap to the SME through the e-procurement gateway. So basically, this is what we call the embedded fintech. You will see more and more fintechs embed themselves into other ecosystem rather than standalone. And obviously, you have the institution now banks. I mentioned here several state-owned banks, private banks, as well as what's unique also regional banks or BPR are actually also collaborating with fintech. So it's not only the big banks, but you see banks like rural banks like BPR, Supra here, for example, being a channeling partner for investree, right? So I think this is one of the important mindset. And with this collaboration, actually, we're developing more robust credit scoring capabilities for SMEs. I think that's very important. So using alternative data from the ecosystem, we're able to actually provide a better or a more comprehensive credit profile of the SME, which is very important if you're enhancing financial inclusion, but also when you talk about government relief program, we have to make sure that the program or the funds reach the right person or the right business. So that is where you need to have clarity on the profiling or the credit profiling of the business. This is another example how you see famous agriculture, so agri-tech, whereby supporting their ecosystem. And I think this will be the trend going forward as more and more fintech will collaborate with ecosystem, not only the banks, but also the digital economy. And I think this is one of the key collaboration between fintech lending and the ecosystem. So I believe this is just the beginning, as mentioned. The potential of the growth of fintech lending and the digital ecosystem in Indonesia is very, very huge. And I think we're just seeing the beginning. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pak Adrian. Now, before I get into the summary of your presentation, we have a comment from our viewers by the name of Azisha Karimasari. She said, I just want to say thank you to investree. I met this fintech to buy SBSN from the first time, and they helped me to get the full online registration and create my SID.
Yeah, that's part of what we do to digitize, and I think it comes back to one of the roles of fintech. The customer journey or customer experience is very important. I think we are all have the same mission to make finance more accessible, more affordable. I think that is where technology can play a huge role.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I hope that a lot more people, a lot more SMEs can tap into the potential of fintech in Indonesia. Now, as I said before, I would like to summarize a little bit about Pak Adrian's presentation. What strikes me the most is the potential for collaboration and how fintech can actually get stronger and bigger and grow even more when they've become embedded with bigger digital ecosystem.
Correct.
Right. Correct. Okay, so
that's the trend in Indonesia, I think. That's the trend that you see, and I think that's a very positive sign, and I think the banks will also benefit because typically the fintech companies will do the dirty work in terms of tech integration, and then the banks can leverage on that. So I think hopefully this is a good synergy that we're building.
Yes, I believe it will be a win-win situation for both bank and fintech. Right. Thank you so much again, Pak Adrian. I'm sure we have a lot of questions, but we have time for that at the end of the session. Now I would like to introduce our next speaker. Our next speaker is Bapak Darmadi Sutanto. He is the Deputy President Director of Bank BTPN. Hi Bapak, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, sama-sama. Thank you for inviting.
Selamat sore Pak Darmadi, apa kabar?
Apa kabar Pak Ardian?
Long time no see.
Long time no see. Nah, sekarang di fintech industry, Pak.
Yeah. Pak Darmadi and I used to be colleagues in Stanchart.
Yeah.
In a different lifetime. In a different lifetime.
I'm glad our platform can become a place for reuni, so to say. Right. So Bapak Darmadi, he will tell us about BTPN's journey in digitizing banking, the collaborative effort of fintech with the banking sector, as well as information about what we can expect from Bank BTPN in the future. I believe you also have a presentation. You will have about 15 minutes. So everyone, please welcome Bapak Darmadi to the platform.
Thank you, Asia. Thank you for the opportunity and invitation for us from BTPN to share this afternoon. Today we're a bit from a different angle, which is digital banking, digital banking. So from a bank point of view, I believe the Adrian has shared with us the excitement that now the fintech world has. And of course, I do believe it is not competition with us in the bank, but it is more something that we can collaborate. I agree totally, and complement each other, moving forward to the development of the financial industry in this country. Okay, next please. Just a bit an overview, just a quick one that BTPN used to know as a Bank Tabungan Pensiunan Negara. It was before 2008, yeah, 2008. It was mainly a pension business, but then after that, in the past 12 years, BTPN has emerged to become more universal bank. So we introduced micro banking businesses in 2009, and then funding businesses in the name of Sinaya. It is like the wealth management businesses. And then also we have a platform of, we call it the community services as part of our proposition to the millions of Indonesian. And then we introduce also Mitra Usaha Rakyat, Productive Poor Business. So this is more loan for the lower market back in 2012. And small medium SME business started to be introduced in 13. And of course, in the past 4-5 years, we started to have a very exciting new businesses, new platform that we have in BTPN, which we call technology-based businesses in the form of two WOW businesses. We call it BTPN WOW. This is basically branchless banking or laku pandai in terms of the OJK. And Genius, of course, the one that, yeah, I think plays quite a major role in our businesses in the past 4 years. So this is the digital banking that I believe will be our core value proposition for especially for the retail banking businesses where I have responsibility for. But not only that, we do hope that this Genius become like an embryo of a digital banking for the whole bank, even the whole bank. So that is just an overview of what the journey of our bank in the past 12 years. We are quite, well, perhaps we call it a bit successful in our Genius business, because I think this is what we call it co-create values or culture. So the development of Genius as a product has always been involving our clients, our customers, our market, our users. So we come up with features, we come up with products and facility, almost all based on the discussion and input with the clients or the customer, the market. In fact, today we have co-create club, something like that, who around, I think, 19 dozen of our clients become the member. So those who would like to know more about our co-create activities, you can go to www.cocreate.id. So you can be also a member and you can give us feedback, give us what you think is good for the product, and those that we think is very innovative, very interesting, then we will make it in our Genius. So this, I think, quite a major role on our success in Genius business. Just to be fast, yeah, Genius is a simple, smart, safe life financing that we are proposing in terms of value. Simple certainly is about easiest, fastest of transactions, of making payment, of depositing your money, of breaking your deposit and transfer it back to your savings account. All these activities, that's what we are proposing. The value that a client will have from Genius. Smart is not only about transaction. We try to develop Genius as or the Genius helping the customer to understand their own financial behavior and insights of what they have done in the last, say, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, and projecting the future of what they need to do. So it's smarter. It can help the client to manage their money better. Safe, of course. Yeah, digital banking now is very important to have security. So we always try to catch up with technology, and we always trying to develop our platform in a very secured way, and always been very cautious and put quite a big control on this aspect. Not only that, of course, now we cannot just only have a smartphone for transactions, because main transactions still use cards. So in the meantime, we still provide cards, especially if we go abroad. Most of the transactions abroad are still using credit card. Cards, could be debit. So in the meantime, we give smartphone and cards. And not only that, we believe that a banking business is talking about trust business. So we would like to perhaps even in our strategy to still keep some of the presence physically. So clients have still option available if they would like to meet with people, to meet with our representative in branches. The issue, of course, what is the optimum number of presence that we need to have as a bank, especially in this big country like Indonesia. And to tell you today, Genius has also started to be used by more, I call it senior millennials, those with a different age, with the somebody like me, perhaps, yeah. So client like myself still see that presence physically is also important, especially when we put the money in the bank. So these are the proposition that we will give through our digital banking. And below you may see all the functionalities in Genius, which mainly coming from this co-create clients, yeah, co-create members. So just to be quick, because it's only 15 minutes, digital as a preferred channel in a new norm. Yeah, this is the latest survey from our team in the past, I think 1 or 2 months during the pandemic. So it's quite obvious that mobile banking and digital now is leading the transaction. Yeah, the transaction, the channel that is mostly used. Prior to a pandemic, the data that we have, ATM is still a bit more than the digital or mobile banking in our case, in our Genius case. So this is a survey to our Genius customers. And then if you see, this is also in a Genius data. Before pandemic, you may see that transfer to other bank is the most highest transacted through Genius. And then card, using card, and then top up e-wallet. But you may see here the change is in the top up e-wallet, and during pandemic is becoming now Flexi Saver. Flexi Saver is the high interest savings that is available in Genius. So we can see during pandemic, people tend to save more. It's quite logical. Tend to save more because they cannot spend, they cannot go anywhere. Especially during the PSBB, we see the quite a significant growth of our funding business. So people save more. So this is something that is a bit changed before and after pandemic. And also cash withdrawal, quite logical, that is gone from the 5 big transaction of Genius, and now more Genius to Genius transfer. Yeah, so this is a bit change of behavior. Just to give you some update, in the past few months during the pandemic, we introduced few other features. First is monetary. Monetary, this is actually one functionality where you can find your habit or your behavior of doing the transactions, basically. When you pay, when you send, when you receive money, so you can always have like the summary of that on daily basis. So it's going to be easily track your own behavior, and then from that we can project our like spending, potential spending, utilities payment that we need to do in the future. And second is multi-flexi saver. This is the high interest savings. Before we only have one account in Genius. Today we have multi accounts, so you can have 2 or 3 separate account for different purposes. Sometimes people would like to manage their money for different purposes, so you can put it in a different savings account. QR capability is also being introduced, and the latest one just a week ago we introduced top up BNI tap cash. This is in collaboration with BNI, of course. Top up their e-money name tap cash. So by doing this, it's very easy. When you just put the tap cash behind the smartphone, and then a Genius will pop up, and then you just proceed with the payment, and easily the e-money is top up for e-toll, for MRT, and for other payments. I think this is my last 2 slides. Challenges, of course, in digital banking. Yeah, we are different from fintech. Yeah, as what Pak Sukarela has also mentioned, that also Pak Adrian a bit, that we are highly regulated industry. We are part of a bank, so we need to comply not only Indonesia regulation. Genius is now part of SMBC Japan, so we also have to comply with FSA Japan, so the financial authority in Japan. So it's quite regulated in terms of many things. We need to basically go through so many processes before we can even introduce a new feature. So this is the challenges. Banks are still perceived to be complicated and rigid. This is something that we need to continue educate our client. But as I told you earlier, we started to sell this Genius to our wealth management clients during the pandemic. And the result is very encouraging that this selenial, or perhaps some is colonial, is somebody who already more than 50 years, they are quite excited with Genius, and now started to keep the money more in Genius. And the challenges again is market awareness and understanding for digital banking. What I mean with this, in the past few months, especially during pandemic, there's been a lot of what I call it misunderstanding of clients or customers about not about the transact in social media in this digital space. So this is something that we see that we need to educate the market. For instance, in the past few months, we have a lot of inquiries and complaints about people doing to block and to return the money, which actually the client of Genius is genuine. It's just it is a bad people. So this kind of activities is starting to grow. I don't know. People just easily trust everybody to pay something through Instagram, through social media. Even this is small money, but involving quite many people. So we need to educate the market, and I think I am a part of the Perbanas member, so I will invite some other banks also to togetherly educate the market about the flaw, the danger, or not the danger, that we need to be careful with this kind of activities using digital banking. Cybercrime is similar what I am just telling. So I just going to touch a bit about the challenge of digital banking, and perhaps also some of the startups. E-commerce is monetization, of course, monetization. What I call it monetization. Digital bank, e-commerce, and fintech, perhaps to some extent, is quite struggling on how to be profitable. Yeah, we may see here. I just try to put it in a box that we have in the lower end, millennial, and then I call it millennial, and then in the upper end, I call it innovation, and conservative. And then on the right, I call it below vulnerable, and then sustainable. So today, even in our digital bank, the challenge for us how to make this sustainable. Sustainable meaning that someday it's going to be self-funded, can be profitable, and then self-fund the growth, and then self-fund the business. So millennial is good. Millennial is growing, and they are very innovative. Yeah, and they are I think the strength of the future of the market. But certainly millennial has quite many limitations. And in terms of if you're talking about banks, in terms of portfolio asset, something that we need to now to think hard how we can be a bit more sustained with this millennial market. This is the challenge that we have. That's why we also now move to the Selenial, yeah, because Selenial will have more portfolio that a bank can work on, and its potential is also high. But Selenial, of course, is more conservative, yeah. And then we need to introduce innovations to the Selenials that also need some work to be done. So at the end of the day, please next. At the end of the day, we need to make the curve different into yellow. How to make millennial for us as a bank more profitable? Because as a bank, as what Pak Adrian is the head of association on the fintech loan, peer-to-peer loan, and Pak Adrian has more. I can tell it. It's more. Innovation and fast introduction, and even less regulation. So in our case, introducing loan is not an easy way to do. So our basis of the business now is still funding and transactions. A loan will be introduced, but it will not be able to be as fast as fintech, because fintech has its own strength. That's why I do believe about the collaboration we are between bank and fintech in terms of loan, because a loan business will make the financial model much better for the digital. While in our case, loan business in the meantime, it's not something that we can do in a fast way. A lot of regulation, a lot of things like we have to be careful with like what we call it bank healthiness and so on and so on. So this is a challenge for us to monetize in the digital banking. How to have this curve, the yellow curve. Yeah. In the meantime, we are more in a white curve. So this is one challenge I can tell you. So my last point is about opportunity. Please back. Yeah. Yeah, the opportunity, we know all that this digital banking space provide us with a huge market potential moving forward. Of course, we need to be in. I think everybody understand that. And moving on to millennial market is a potential. Yeah, I believe that somebody like Pak Adrian is not that young, especially if we met in Standard Chartered Bank back in, I think, before 2010. So, but we call it ourselves senior millennials. We do have a behavior similar to millennials, but we are quite already been there, yeah, for some time. So ecosystem is another potential thing that we need to do with digital banking. We can do a lot of partnership, a lot of things that we can do with other partners like e-commerce, even not only domestically, but also internationally. And the last one, Genius as a platform. This is the one that I spoke earlier about Genius or digital becoming our proposition, not only for digital banking business. Today, Genius is run as a business. Moving forward, Genius will be also as a platform for different kind of businesses that we have, such as wealth management, micro businesses, even pension businesses. And as I told you earlier, it could be also SME banking and corporate banking for, say, transactional banking for supply chain businesses. So this is the opportunity that we have through our digital banking. Okay, I think last one is just a bit of overview that Genius has been used by somebody 74 years old. This is we got it from our clients, Nonita Rospati, putting her daddy in Instagram that her daddy 74-year-old is applying Genius. So we do hope digital banking will not be enjoyed only by millennials, but starting also by millennials and even colonials. So I think that is the end of my presentation. Basically, hopefully in the next few years, whenever you have a dream of your financing in your life, then Genius will be there to help you. Thank you very much. That's it. So I give it back to Eisya.
Okay, thank you very much, Bapak Darmadi. I'm very sure that we learn a lot about BTPN, and we cannot wait for many other collaboration and innovation from Bank BTPN in the future. Okay. Next, I want to call Ibu Natasha Ardiani. She is the VP of Lending Services from OVO. She will share with us insight from OVO and her thoughts on the future of fintech. Hi, Ibu.
Hi, Aisha. Thank you. Good afternoon, Pak Sukarela, Pak Darmadi, Pak Adrian, Ravi, and ladies and gentlemen attending virtually. Selamat sore semuanya. My name is Natasha. I cover lending at OVO, and I'm truly honored to be here today to share about OVO and the latest trends on fintech. And thanks to JakPost for hosting, and very much looking forward to the Q&A session with my fellow panelists and webinar attendees. I hope most of us here are OVO users, but for those who haven't heard of OVO, OVO is a leading digital financial service company in Indonesia, which offers financial services ranging from payment, rewards, lending, insurance, and investment. OVO is accepted nationwide, and we are committed to building the largest financial technology company in Indonesia. We can move on to the next slide, please. Right. So to date, OVO is the #1 payment platform in Indonesia in terms of TPV or total payment value. That includes OVO has already been downloaded in over 115 million devices and accepted in over 650,000 payment merchants, including 450,000 MSMEs throughout 373 cities in Indonesia. And these numbers will continue to increase along with the development and innovation that we offer. We empower our users and merchants with financial products and services to create an inclusive digital ecosystem. We can move on to the next slide, please. So since 2017, yes, OVO is still less than 3 years old, actually. Since OVO was launched in 2017, we achieved many milestones. In October 2019, OVO was recognized as Indonesia's first fintech unicorn by the Ministers of Communications and Informatics, Pak Rudiantara, recognized as the first or the #1 digital payment platform. OVO is extending our proposition to provide the most comprehensive suite of financial services to all of our users. Payment is just the starting point of OVO's strategy to realize financial inclusion in Indonesia. Eventually, we plan to give our users access to a wide array of financial services, as mentioned earlier, from lending, insurance, wealth, investment, that will empower them to then start building their wealth and participating in the modern digital economy. We're also focusing on increasing our revenue this year, which has grown 475% in the last year. And where we are today is due to our ecosystem strategy, our open ecosystem strategy that allows us to partner agnostically with any market players across verticals and use cases, as you can see on the screen in front of you. We can move on, please. So since its launch, OVO has expanded its verticals and business units, right? From payment to financial services, demonstrated by the strong revenue growth across products and EBITDA improvements. OVO payment ecosystem is expanding at a very accelerated speed, with revenue grown by 7.4 times from Q1 2019 to Q4 2020. This is a result of the exponential growth in the digital payment businesses and also due to our expansion into the financial services business. In 2019, we acquired Terralight, which is a peer-to-peer fintech lending company that recently obtained its license from OJK that allowed us to diversify our offerings into the lending space. And in 2019, we also announced 2 highly strategic partnerships to mark our foray in the insurance and asset management industry. So we also partner with Prudential, which allowed us to offer life and health insurance policies over at our app. And this culminated in the launch of our personal protections insurance launch in the mid of April. We also partner with Bareksa, a wealth management platform. And this culminated in the launch of Bareksa Emas, and the launch of these products will allow OVO to diversify our revenue mix even further as we progress towards profitability. And next, right, this is quite interesting, right? By comparing Indonesia with China, we recognize that there is a huge untapped potentials across the Indonesian payments and financial services sectors, especially due to the low industry penetration, as Pak Sukarela earlier rightly pointed out. For example, on the left-hand side in the digital payment space, Indonesia is growing at 47% CAGR between 2019 to 2021, 13% higher than China's growth rate at 34%. This is taken from the 2019 JP Morgan report. And the reason for this is because China's fastest growing period was actually between 2013 to 2017. And since then, the growth started to plateau a bit. And Alipay being the first market entrant back in 2008 and used to be the escrow wallet for Alibaba e-commerce website, Taobao. Their year-on-year growth was quite exponential, but not until 2013, 2014, when WeChat Pay or Weixin entered the market, Alipay had a strong contender. So Indonesia, give or take, is behind China by 6 or 7 years in digital payment. So in Indonesia, actually now digital payment only start to pick up. So I think what I'm trying to say is like we're barely scratching the surface here. In the middle chart, you see here around 50% of the adult population in Indonesia do not have a bank account as compared to the approximately 6% in China that do not. This may be due to the Indonesia's geography with more than 17,000 islands that make up the whole nation. The difficulty to establish bank branches in remote places is always an issue, leading to the underserved and or the underbanked communities. But thanks to apps like Genius from the presentation from Darmadi earlier, I think these type of innovations help in increasing literacy and inclusion, and hopefully later on will also increase these figures, right? And then majority of people, approximately 60%, still prefer cash as their main payment method. That explains why the digital payment penetration here is only at 6%. In comparison, China is already at 33%, with less than 20% of their total payments done in cash. Now on the right-hand side, the financial services marketplace side of things, in lending in Indonesia, it is found that 71% and 74% of Indonesian consumers and businesses still do not have access to credit. In comparison, 37.5% of businesses and consumers and businesses in China still struggle to raise loans. So the numbers for actually MSMEs access to credit in China and Indonesia is quite comparable. Insurance in Indonesia is still in its nascent stage at 1.7% penetration. China's insurance industry is more developed at around 5 to 6%. However, both of these countries are still in their nascent stages when it comes to insurance, especially when compared to the more developed countries like the United States. Their penetration is between 8 to 10%. Similarly, in the investment sector, mutual funds only make up 3% of the Indonesian GDP, with less than 2% of the total value being digitally distributed. In comparison, China's mutual funds penetration rate is at over 13%, but a much higher percentage of it, 40%, is digitally distributed. So, with that in mind, OVO is committed to bridge access to digital payments and financial services for the underbanked and the underserved, serving the middle economy and improving the lives of all individuals across the Indonesian archipelago. So this is actually my last slide. Next, please. Right, moving forward, OVO's long-term goal has always been to develop services to address gaps in our financial ecosystem and meet evolving consumer needs. This includes supporting a greater financial inclusion in Indonesia. And in order to do this, we intend to do the following. On payment side, we will focus on hitting positive gross margins by expanding to profitable segments, such as supply chain, online merchants, and government sector, as Adrian earlier mentioned. And then on lending, we'll manage risk while seeking opportunities during the crisis. We will focus more on launching loan products with the best risk-adjusted returns, such as invoice financing and payroll financing. In investment, we will accelerate financial security for all Indonesians. Through our partnership with Bareksa, OVO users are now easily can access gold investment products called Bareksa Emas, in which OVO acts as a payment provider. In insurance, we recently offered a premium-free personal accident, death, and COVID-19 protection, which is in collaboration with Prudential, and we've distributed to over 160,000 people so far. And soon we're going to introduce Protect in partnership also with Prudential, which provides a completely digital micro health insurance to all OVO users with a very affordable price, starting from 8,000 rupiah a month. And lastly, I think none of these innovations and growth could happen without the wise counsel and supervision by regulators, both Bank Indonesia and OJK. At OVO, while building our products and forging partnerships, we keep in mind the 2025 Bank Indonesia Payment System Blueprint and the recently launched 2020-2024 Digital Finance Innovation Roadmap and Action Plan by OJK. So really kudos to Pak Sukarela and his colleagues at OJK and also colleagues at Bank Indonesia for facilitating these innovations and unprecedented growth in fintech. I guess, Aisya, we can jump into the Q&A. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ibu Natasha. OVO has done a lot, for a platform. It really has an open ecosystem strategy which allows many services to be given to its consumers, right? Yeah, I wanted to ask you a few questions. The first one being, you mentioned that we still need to boost inclusion, right, in serving the underbanks. What has OVO done in that area to increase financial inclusion?
Right, I think we've done a couple, right? For example, with the onset of COVID-19, we have witnessed changes in customers' behaviors and lifestyles with increased usage of online platforms and higher volume of daily transactions. Without doubt, Indonesians are becoming more and more open and reliant on digital services during this pandemic. So specifically, we've seen significant growth in online commerce. Actually, the total payment value growth is more than 100% since pre-COVID. And while OVO's overall e-commerce TPV has grown, we also have seen significant new user growth as users move their spending habits online and are adopting cashless payment to fulfill their essential needs and groceries, and necessities during social distancing. We are also seeing users moving to lower basket size necessity goods as users are buying more of their daily necessities online and reducing purchase of bigger ticket size. This is consistent to our data that shows that overall average basket size for e-commerce has reduced by 15%. And for business lending, dispersal, it grew nearly 50%, 50, and has been sustained at this level, supported by our risk management. And then OVO has become the one of the government partners to disperse the Prakerja incentives. I think that's one of the first big government projects that OVO is involved in, and OVO has been involved from the get-go to help to distribute the relief and the incentives. And on top of that, OVO is also working with PLN to distribute subsidies to electricity payments that helps over 100,000 families. So we believe that these changes and behavior will stick. We saw that the SARS epidemic in China and Hong Kong back in 2000-2003 played as a catalyst for the country's fledgling e-commerce and digital payment industry. A lot of the digital marketplace actually, like Alibaba, Taobao, was launched at the height of the SARS outbreak, then led to the further tech boom in China. So at OVO, we will continue to innovate to drive digital payments and financial services across the board to support the Indonesian people throughout COVID-19. And moreover, our innovation will also support Bank of Indonesia and other regulators' directive to conduct non-cash transactions to prevent the transmissions through banknotes.
Right. Yes, it is very interesting to see now that fintech has worked with the government to disburse this aid in times of the crisis. We genuinely need that, right? Cashless payment. So yeah, looking into the future, besides this aid disbursement, how do you see the future of the fintech industry, particularly in line with the government mission in the Bank Indonesia Payment System Blueprint for 2025?
Right. So fintech is about supporting people's lives, right? Feeding in seamlessly. It's supposed to fit in seamlessly to people's day-to-day lives, and it's about bringing a new era of finance, solving some of the things that we couldn't solve in the past. The COVID outbreak has indicated the needs for higher digital adoption of payment and financial services sooner rather than later. And fortunately, it has put OVO alongside with partners such as Grab and Tokopedia in a unique position to leverage our collective scale and operational know-how to address unmet consumer needs. So now the future of fintech will highly depend on two things, right? First of all, is how industry will innovate and how government provides provisions to regulate, facilitate, incubate, and supervise. The two highly depend on each other and also reiterate each other, and as industry player we always adhere to the regulations, putting data protection, consumer safety, and product literacy at the forefront, with the vision to accelerate financial inclusion in Indonesia. We are committed to contributing to the nation to create a better inclusion, better livelihoods through providing equal access to financial services aligned with the vision of 2025 Bank Indonesia Payment System Blueprint. OVO is also truly honored to be part of the government's QRIS project, an initiative that is a massive leap forward, allowing seamless interoperability to boost digital payment acceptance and building inclusive ecosystem. We have been involved in QRIS projects since the pilot, and we truly look forward to fully implementing this initiative. And as more merchants and MSMEs becoming part of the digital ecosystem, they will also become exposed to the variety of financial services available. However, I think education and literacy has been consistently a challenge for all of us, right? In banking, in like from the regulators' point of view, also the fintech industry players. So I think education and literacy are key to reach the unbanked and underbanked consumers, as rightly pointed out by previous panelists also. An education initiative should be spearheaded by industry players, also by regulators, as it impacts the whole nation. We need more classes and lessons on home economics, on financial planning. Parents or millennials need to talk to their children about money, about managing money, about investing, about saving, and protecting ourselves from unfavorable future circumstances through insurance. So it should go hand in hand. The proliferation of digital financial products and also the grassroots understanding of these services and these financial instruments. So, what does it mean to be financially indebted? What does it mean to be financially independent? So at OVO, we see this as a day-to-day problem to solve that prompts us to design and bring about products that the people need and people will adapt.
Great. Thank you very much, Ibu Natasha, for your presentation and your explanation. Okay, so after listening to some of the key industry players, now we want to know more on how Indonesia fintech landscape fare against the rest of the world, and what are some of the key areas of improvement in the industry. To give us a better picture on the topic, we have here with us Bapak Ravi Kanth Ivaturi. He is the PwC Indonesia advisor. Hi, Pa, how are you?
Thanks. Hi, Aisha. I'm good. Thanks for this opportunity, and thanks to Jakarta Post, and thanks to all the esteemed panelists for all the content which they have shared. So, having heard for the last, I think, almost 1.5 hours, so I don't see what more I can add as value to it, because I think from Pa Sukarela's point of view, in terms of he has explained it very aptly in terms of what the regulator is doing. Pa Adrian and Pa Darmadi has given, and including Natasha has given a very broad view of what the industry players are doing. So if you can just put up my slides, I'll just quickly go through. Maybe you can think of it as a summary of what all these players have actually said, and I'll quickly touch upon some of the questions as well, which people have been asking in the Q&A. And just highlight some of them so that we just bring that into the discussion as well. So maybe if you can just put up the slide. Okay, if it's not there, so then maybe let me just quickly summarize some of the aspects. So I mean, if you see, there is a report which was launched by AFTEC just recently, which is the annual member survey 2019-2020. I think in which it's a 56-page report, in which they very aptly and very concisely summarize what's going on in the current fintech landscape in Indonesia. I mean, both from the pre-pandemic and during the pandemic kind of situation. So if you see, I mean, in 2016 or so in Indonesia, we started with around 24 startups. Now in Indonesia, there are around 362 startups. I mean, give and take a number here and there. So around 362 fintech startups for a population of around 260 million in Indonesia. And if we see the kind of funding which each of these firms in Indonesia are receiving, it's I mean, the amounts are huge. Because why? Because the opportunity which Indonesia presents as a market is really, really huge. And every investor within Southeast Asia, as well as across in the other regions as well, wants to be a player in this market and invest in companies like OVO, like investree, and other fintech companies. So at the same time, if you also see, I mean, obviously the other speakers have already touched upon some of these aspects that during the pandemic, I mean, if you take an example of myself as an individual, I mean, I have been always using all the fintech tools which are available for me for my payments, for my groceries and every other aspects in my life. So obviously that is true for most of the people in Indonesia as well. So in this context, I think I just also want to quickly touch upon Bank Indonesia as well as OJK. I think have done a very tremendous job in actually creating this conducive environment for all these fintechs to blossom and help or support the Indonesian customers in their day-to-day journey, in their digital journeys. So I think, yeah, maybe just go to the second slide or the third, next one. Yeah. So if you see, as I think Natasha has pointed out, Bank Indonesia has come up with this payment system roadmap 2025 document, which is available online. So I think in that document, there are 5 key initiatives which the Bank Indonesia points out. And one of them is the QRIS project, which Natasha has mentioned. The other one, which is currently underway, is the Open Banking initiative. And similarly, in the Digital Financial Innovation Roadmap 2020-2024, even OJK has come up with a set of plans as to how OJK will help in creating financial innovation, digital financial innovation among the Indonesian players, fintech players. So I think that's where I would say that one of the comment which I have around this is, I think if you see both these documents of Bank Indonesia as well as OJK, I think as Pak Sukarela has pointed out, I think this is one of the I think leading kind of documents which many of the other regional regulatory authorities have also not done it yet. So in that sense, we are much ahead of the game in terms of creating this conducive environments. Obviously, there are improvements to be made, and I know some of the industry players also are looking for some of these improvements. But I think in terms of structure and in terms of regulation, I think we are in the right direction. However, if you see my last point, I think one of the aspects should be in terms of, I mean, this is what I call it as regulatory collaboration. I think you have a set of regulator with a set of roadmap, and Bank Indonesia has a set of roadmap, OJK has a set of roadmap. Maybe at some point in time or in the future, or maybe it's already happening in the background, there should be more and more collaboration among these different regulations, so that if you see, most of the fintech players are not only payments companies, they're also lenders, they're also into insurance, into other fintech tools as well. So I think at some point in time, maybe in the next 1 or 2 or 3 years, if there is more and more collaboration set up between these regulatory authorities, so that there would be more clarity to the fintech players in terms of how to comply with these different regulations among these different regulators. I think that will be a very, very, very good step forward, which will also help these fintechs to actually contribute more towards financial inclusion and drive the financial innovation for Indonesian companies. I think also some of the topics which people have also pointed out in the Q&A, and I see that more often, is about consumer protection. I think, and also cyber security. I think with more and more people joining and doing digital transactions, what is the level of security and what is the level of protection the consumers have when they are actually transacting using these digital channels? I think this is a question which is relevant in almost all the markets where fintechs are there. So whether it might be in India, China, any other market you take, this question is a very, very relevant question. Various regulators in various countries have responded to it with different set of regulations. Most of us attending this session might know the European regulation around GDPR. Indonesia has its own, has started drafting its own set of consumer protection law, which is still under discussion. And as far as we know, it's also tailored around the GDPR regulation at a very high level. But however, one of the other thing is also that how do we enact or implement this consumer protection law once the regulator comes up and once it's being established as a law in this country? And that's where I think typically the infrastructures like, for example, the eKYC infrastructure or the infrastructure of how companies can share personal information of consumers between each other. I mean, one of the things which we're talking is of open banking right now. So as part of the open banking as well, there are aspects of data sharing between different fintech companies and banks and vice versa. So what are the mechanisms and infrastructure available which the regulator can put forward for all fintechs to utilize as a baseline or as a foundation? I think that becomes more and more important. When we talk about infrastructure, even eKYC as an infrastructure in Indonesia is very essential. Now, as all these fintechs, all the fintechs which are in the market have their own ways in which they do the KYC of their customers. I mean, recently we know that the Indonesian government has also given I think some set of companies to become the eKYC providers so that they can help fintechs to do the KYC for their customers. But I think if we can do more around the eKYC infrastructure, I think that will be a big boost to all the fintechs to actually quickly provide services to their customers. I think one of the other last thing which I also want to touch upon is the related to cloud regulations. I mean, cloud infrastructure regulations. I think the more clarity we have around how companies can leverage the cloud infrastructure, not only the data centers which are there within Indonesia, but how we can also leverage companies which have data centers outside Indonesia as well. More clear regulations around that would also help, I think, more and more fintechs to innovate in their products and help Indonesian customers provide more and more innovations in the fintech space. Yeah, so I think that with that, let me stop because I think we've already reached 5 o'clock. Back to you, Eisya.
Okay, thank you so much, Bapak Ravi. I personally have a lot of questions for you, but right now we are going to start the Q&A session. First of all, I would like to apologize for our attendees. We might end the webinar at around 5 past 10 minutes past 5. Because we still have to answer some of your questions. And also, unfortunately, we can only answer about 5 questions. So now I believe Apriza has selected some questions from our attendees. He will also moderate the session. So Apriza, I will hand the platform back to you.
Well, thank you, Aisha. And yes, we are actually running out of time. Actually, we have received more than 20 questions so far, but unfortunately, we will only answer maybe 5 over the course of 10 minutes. So I will start with a question from some of the audience. Many of them are asking about the privacy protection, customers' privacy protection. As Indonesia, we know, still doesn't have data protection law. I mean, how does the fintech platforms, or in a bigger picture, the industry play the role in ensuring the customers' privacy protection? And are there any specific measures that are being prepared or in the pipeline? Maybe I want to start with Pak Adrian. Maybe Pak Adrian want to give us some response to these questions. Pak. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Yes.
Yes, can you hear me?
Adrian, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you repeat
Yeah.
the question? Sorry, I guess
Okay.
I have a
Sorry.
concurrent
So,
call.
okay, then many of the audience are asking about the customers' privacy protection because, as we know, Indonesia still doesn't have data protection law. So, I mean, how the fintech industry could play its role in ensuring the privacy protection, and are there any specific measures that are being prepared or in the pipeline so far?
Right. So I think that is I shared also in the slide actually how we are actually together with AFTEC actually part of the focus group discussion together with the Parliament with regards to the Undang-Undang Consumer Data Protection. So I think as a fintech company, there are obviously some clear regulations with regards to data. Definitely, if you are a licensed or a registered fintech lending platform, then you obviously need to meet ISO certifications to ensure robustness of the system. Secondly, your data center must be hosted obviously in Indonesia. I think that is quite clear. Also, with regards to the fintech lending, especially those that are licensed and registered, you actually may only access 4 data points: camera, microphone, location, and IMEI. So any data outside of that is actually illegal, right? So I think these are some of the interim measures that we are applying with regards to the effort of the enhancing the consumer data protection. But I think the aim or the objective is to have the regulation out by end of this year, which then the consent from users or consumers is fully governed. I think from the industry, we are quite positive on where the regulation and when the regulation will be out. I think also the Parliament members, Komisi Satu especially, has also the same intention. So I think it's pretty clear on that side. It's a matter of just, I think, getting through the finish line.
Okay, thank you for the answer, Pak Adrian. Actually, it's quite insightful. And I would like to remind the speakers to please answer concisely because we are running out of time. So we are moving to the next question. This is maybe for Pak Darmadi. There's a question from Dani Bayu. So if we talk about financial services, there is banking industry and then there is fintech. The never-ending debate between the two entities is about struggling to save their customer base. While banks have the trust and fintech has technology and innovation, so does it mean that it is a war or a need to collaborate? Maybe Pak Darmadi want to give us some
Yeah,
insight
I think
about
from the
this.
presentation it's very clear that bank has its own advantage, but also have its weaknesses, especially if you're talking about speed, if talking about reach. So collaboration, I think, is not only the way we do the business successfully, but is perhaps the only way. We are thinking now in digital banking that is similar to what has been presented by most presenters, that we need to collaborate and we need to have an open collaboration. Basically, we cannot be alone in doing things, and we try to protect ourselves from our competition, but rather than defending our whatever we have, but more open up and collaborating and have cooperation with any potential partner that is supporting our businesses. So this market has been driven to that situation anyway, that people, I don't think somebody can win the whole things. So we just take some part of this market and collaborate with others to grow our part. So that, I think, is the basic principles that everybody needs to have to be successful in this technology era. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Pak Darmadi. So there's a question from Adrian Siregar. He asked about the question is, what do you think on potential digital banking players in some other Asian markets that historically not coming from financial services at all? Does that model will work for Indonesia? Maybe Pak Ravi wants to answer this question.
I think that model is still not there in Indonesia, because I think you do not have, as I understand from the question, I think maybe he's referring to something like a Google Pay or a WhatsApp Pay, which and when will it launch in Indonesia kind of question. So as of now, I think the local players have a much bigger advantage because they have been here for the last 5 years, as well as they know the market, they know the customer, as well as the regulation as of now is very conducive for them to grow. But I am sure, because if you see in markets like India and as well as other big markets, these players are already there, and they have made their presence very much, very prominent. So there might be a point at which there will be an entry of these players into Indonesian market as well. But by that time, hopefully all the local players have already created their moat in their business to sustain and compete with these big players, and which will come with big cash along with them.
Okay, thank you, Pak Ravi, for the answer. So the next question is from Zulfikar Faturrahman. This is for Pak Adrian, actually. The NPL ratio in the P2P fintech lending industry has been steadily rising since March. How long do you see this trend to continue? Is taking part in the pandemic stimulus disbursement the best way for the industry to contribute to our economic recovery, or is there a better way?
Okay, so I think if you look at the trend as we also shared in terms of June, July, we see the trend on the TKB 90 lowering, right? As I also shared, I think there's several iterations that needs to be done with the fintech lending platform in terms of their credit scoring model. That's one. Secondly, also enhancing the collection strategy. That's another aspect that also must be done, right? But I think we also know for a fact that fintech lending are collaborating with credit insurance providers as a means to mitigate the risk. So yes, there will be continuous, I would say, the lowering of the TKB, but also we need to look at certain sectors. Productive, consumptive, as I mentioned, there are some sectors that will continue to deteriorate. The effectiveness of the recovery fund, I think fintech can play a significant role. I think what has been shared by Natasha, obviously an ecosystem such as OVO can be quite, I would say, engaging to access the SMEs and utilize the recovery fund. So I think it is very relevant that fintech should be part of a channel to distribute the fund.
Okay, thank you for the answer. Maybe this is the last question for the panelists. The question is, what is the outlook for fintech development in rural areas given the digital divide in Indonesia? Maybe Ibu Natasha wants to start first.
Sure. I think, well, internet and broadband network, I think, is very key, right, to any digital business penetration. So I think the short answer to that is that the proliferation of fintech products or digital payment to rural area without strong broadband network is rather hard. And that's why I think the government is committed to, if I'm not mistaken, I think almost double the budget of Kominfo, right, to then accelerate the building of new telco towers, strengthen broadband network across Indonesia and rural area. So I think that will be a great catalyst to the proliferation of fintech digital payment products in rural area.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ibu Natasha, for the answer. And I think we have come to the end of the Q&A session because it's already 10 past 5 p.m. And yeah, once again, we're very sorry because there's so many questions raised, and actually there are some that have been answered by the panelists directly. I hope that your questions have been answered as well in the Q&A box. We are very sorry again because we have such a limited of time, so we cannot address all of your questions, participants. But yeah, so I guess this is the end of the webinar. Thank you very much for all speakers and participants for the delightful discussions today in JakPost Fintech Fest. I'd like to inform you that JakPost Fintech Fest will continue tomorrow, and we will be discussing about fintech for financial inclusion throughout Indonesia. And after that, on Friday, the third episode will discuss about showcasing fintech's capabilities and innovation. So make sure you register, stay tuned to our website, thejakartapost.com for more information. Or if you want to get access to a lot of insightful stories from us, please subscribe through www.thejakartapost.com/packages. And maybe if you were not able to get your question answered today, you can attend our next webinar so that you can raise another question as well. Don't forget to follow our social media, the Jakarta Post on Facebook, at JakPost on Twitter, and at JakPost Images on Instagram to get the latest updates about our webinar series and other infos as well. But before I close today's webinar, I'd like to invite all the speakers to take picture so that we will remember our moments together today. I will count to 3 and then we're ready to go. Okay. 1, 2, 3. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for attending this webinar, and stay safe, stay well, and see you on the next webinar. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.